All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Brendan Lowe. I'm going to be hosting the podcast today. I'm the owner and founder of Jazz Piano School. I think a lot of you guys know me, but for anyone who doesn't know me, that is who I am. So, yes, I have my water. Thank you, everyone. Hey, Bruce. Hey, Esther. Usually what I do is say hi to people, chat for a little bit, and then I'm going to go into recording the actual podcast. And so, hey, Susanna. And yes, I do have my water. So I hope everyone's doing well. And what I'm going to be going over today is upper structure triads. And so essentially what I'm going to talk to you guys about is three things which you'll hear in the podcast. And that's going to be what they are, how to use them, and then how to take them to a new level. So essentially how to take what upper structure triads are and go forward with them, past them, so you can make progress with them, right? So that you can actually use them as the tool that they are and actually make forward momentum with them. Now, upper structures, as you'll probably hear in the podcast, I want to give you kind of like a little more info into them. And I try to talk more with you guys rather than on the podcast, because a lot of people watch the podcast. They want, on YouTube, we all want the information immediately, right? Even I find myself, I click on a YouTube video, right? And then if the person's talking for more than 15 seconds, I start hitting the scroll button. I'm like, okay, I just want the answer, right? So I try not to talk too much on the YouTube podcast. But for you guys, essentially what I want to kind of get across is that upper structures are essentially a tool to add extensions into your playing. And so what I mean by that is they're going to create colors for you in an easy and simple way. Let me just say hi to a couple people. Hey, Ray, how's it going? Sam from Hawaii, awesome. I'm trying to get back there soon. I just love Hawaii so much. It was so gorgeous. The one time I went, I just need to go back to all the islands. Awesome. We're working on these. And sorry, so what was I saying? So essentially, upper structure triads are going to be used as kind of like you can imagine them as a paint by colors format. Paint by numbers, paint by colors. Brendan. Paint by numbers format, in which they're going to give you extensions and colors to work on, those types of things. But as you know, if any of you have done paint by numbers, right? The process, if you were to take a blank canvas without the numbers, what happens? It doesn't necessarily allow you to paint anything, really, right? But like when you have the numbers in front of you, you can play them, but when you don't, it's very difficult. So essentially, that's what upper structures are going to be, and I'm going to kind of explain all about it. Hey, Shell. Hey, Nimble, UK. Awesome. And so what's going to happen here is that I'm going to record the podcast for anyone's new here, and you'll clearly hear me start recording. The podcast can be found all on jazzpianoschool.com, not to mention all the courses, our membership. And I'm going to be posting soon the program that I'm starting up. We haven't started yet. I was planning on starting it back in the spring. I'm now shifting it to the fall, which is going to be our 90-day accelerator program. It's going to be our highest level of education. You're going to get to work with me personally and my team in a small, intimate group setting, and essentially with others as well. And my team and I will coach you and teach you. And again, it's going to be our highest level of education. If you're interested in that, hearing more about that at all, obviously you can go to our website. You can email me too, but that's really the only in-person teaching and education I will be giving with my team, instruction to students. So we have some spots filled with that. Because it is a program, we're only going to be accepting a certain amount of students. But again, you can go to jazzpianoschool.com and, hear all about that. So, with that being said, here we go. Whoops, just splashed water on my face. All right, welcome to the Jazz Piano School podcast, episode number 227. My name is Brendan Lowe. Thank you so much for being here. In today's podcast, I'm going to be focusing on upper structure triads. So essentially 3 items that I'm going to be going over. Number 1 is going to be what they are. Okay, number 2 is going to be how to use them and implement them. And number 3 is going to be how to use them in a way that you can start moving forward and making more progress with them. Because a lot of times we get stuck in the process of upper structure triads, but we don't really know how to move forward with them in implementing them. So this podcast goes out to Jean. Thank you so much, Jean. Jean Corsair, I think, is French. And Jean, je suis très heureuse d'enregistrer ce podcast pour vous. Okay? D'accord? So, Jean, thank you very much for submitting your suggestion. If you guys have any suggestions, definitely, I'm always open to suggestions. I do have a long list right now. I'm just kind of going down the list, and this one is for Jean, who I'm assuming is French. So, with that being said, here we go. So, podcast, upper structure triads are going to be as follows. So if we have an upper structure triad, any sort of triad can create colors in our chord. If I play a C7, for example, C7 right here, just root position. Now, if I take a triad, now for those of you who don't know what triads are, again, they're going to be 3 notes, right? So if I take a triad, let's say a D major triad, I'm going to be creating a certain set of extensions that are going to be getting played from this particular triad, right? So what extensions am I playing here? Well, let's take a look. D is going to be the 9 of the chord. F sharp is going to be the sharp 11 of the chord. And A is going to be the 13 of the chord. So if I am to memorize that when I play a C7 and I play a D major triad in my right hand, I can get this color, then I'm kind of golden. Anytime I get to a C7, I can take this chord, this D major triad, it's just a triad, right? And get these certain colors out of it. Now, for beginners, this is a really, really easy and quick way to start playing really great, amazing jazz chords, right? So I could do this. Again, I can kind of voice these in different ways. I'm not going to get into this just yet, but if I voice it like this, if I arpeggiate it, I can make it sound a little bit different as well. So these upper structure triads give us certain sets of colors, right? In an easy to implement fashion that we don't really need to think that hard about. That is the whole purpose of an upper structure triad. Essentially, it's a stepping stone. Let's take another one. This is going to be the 2 major triad. Now, when I say 2 major, I'm talking about in relative to the chord I'm playing. So if I'm playing a C7, my C is going to be the 1. So the next note up is going to be the 2. Okay, and I'm just going to go up the Mixolydian mode here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now let's say I was playing a minor 7 chord and this was Dorian. My notes would change here and my degrees would change. 1, 2, 3. Now I have a flat 3 here because obviously I'm playing a minor 7 chord, right? Now, it's too bad that the notation software I use doesn't stack these in a traditional sense in thirds, but oh well, just look at my hands. Okay, so back to our C dominant example. All right, so here's another one. Flat 3 major triad is another upper structure triad. Okay, this is a really cool sound as well. Let's check out what colors that this upper structure triad gives us. It's going to give us the sharp 9. It's going to give us the 5. And it's going to give us the flat 7. Now, the really true color extension in this chord is really only the sharp 9. It's not the 5. These are just doubled chord tones, essentially. But what this gives us is essentially the sharp 9. So anytime I were to get to the C7 chord, I could play this. And I would get that type of sound. Now, again, this is an easy way to play extensions and colors without having to think quickly about where the flat 13 is, where the sharp 11 is, where the sharp 9 is, right? Let's try a different one. This is a great one. I love this one. This is going to be flat 5 major triad. Right? So flat, this is going to be sharp 11. So let me go back for a second. Your flat 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's flat 5. I'm playing a G flat major triad. This is just a triad. Right? So this is going to give me certain types of extensions. It's going to give me the sharp 11 over my dominant chord. It's going to give me the flat 7, which isn't an extension, it's just a doubled chord tone. And it's going to give me flat 9. Okay, so this is a particular type of sound I can get from working on my flat 5. Now I can also change the inversion, meaning if I flip this chord and I put the 5 on the bottom here, this is second inversion, I get this type of sound as well. And then I can resolve it, right? So again, what is an upper structure triad? Essentially, it's just a triad of some sort, right? Major or minor, it could be diminished to. There's so many of them. I don't want to give them all to you today. You can find that anywhere on the internet. Just type in upper structure triads. You'll get all the upper structure triads you need. What I want to teach you today is what they are, how to use them, and essentially why they are there for you to move your progress forward. Because a lot of people have misinformation about exactly how to use them and what they're for. All right, so I just want you to understand that these are a paint by numbers system, meaning if you completely rely on upper structures to play tunes, you're never really fully going to understand what the color of a 9 is, for example, or what the color of a flat 9 is, or a sharp 11. You know, if we picture each extension as a color, let's say a 9 is a red, and let's say a sharp 11 is a blue, right? Now, when you're painting, you could understand these colors in some sort of cookie cutter way, meaning like you have a blended color that's already pre-mixed for you. Think about a pre-mixed paint with red, blue, and yellow. Let's say the red is the 9, sharp 11 is the blue, and 13 is the yellow, right? When you go to a store, you're like, okay, this is what an upper structure triad is. It's going to give you this pre-mixed paint of those 3 colors. That's exactly what an upper structure triad is. It's a pre-mixed paint of colors for you to experiment with and play with. Now, the only bad thing about this is that you are stuck with a pre-mixed paint, meaning you can't change anything. You're handcuffed by the triad. That definitely sounds cool, right? It's easy to use, but it doesn't give you the freedom that most students want. Does that make sense? So for example, let's say I just wanted to play the sharp 11. Like I didn't want the other 2 colors. I didn't want my red and my yellow. I just want to play sharp 11. Most students who start by learning upper structure triads can't do this. Like if I were to say, okay, you know, Raf, go ahead and play a sharp 11 over a G flat 7 chord, right? Could you do that? Ed, go ahead and play a flat 13 over an E7 chord, right? Could you do that? So these are questions you're going to have to ask yourself. And a lot of times when we focus on upper structure triads, right? Sure, they sound cool. Okay, they're easy to use, but you're going to get handcuffed by them. And that's what I don't want to happen to you, because guess what? It did it exactly to me. It did it to me. I could only play upper structure triads. I could comp. But guess what? When I wanted to be simple about things and just be very specific about the extensions I wanted to play, maybe I just wanted to play the 9 and shells. Right? So I went 9 to 5 to flat 13 to flat 9 to sharp 9. And then I went to 9, 13, maybe sharp 11, 3, 9. I couldn't do it, right? That's what you need to understand about these. Okay, let's get into section number 2. How do we use these now since I've explained them? Now, I don't want you to get the impression that I think they're bad. They're not. They're just a stepping stone, though. They're a stepping stone, and I teach them in Jazz Piano School to the full extent. There's series of videos inside our Success Path curriculum about using upper structure triads, and then as you get into the later stages, I'm starting to separate the extensions out of the upper structure triads so that you can paint with each individual color, ultimately leading to complete freedom over your playing. I want complete freedom over the colors I paint with. I'm picking and choosing every single color on purpose. I'm not using upper structure triads in any of the things that I just played. This is all complete creation in the spontaneous moment, which is what we're all looking to accomplish, right? So how do we use upper structure triads to actually propel us, right? So how do we use them as a stepping stone? Well, first you want to learn them, okay? I'm not going to teach you all of them today. That's very easily found on the internet, and I highly recommend you go find all the triads. Obviously, if you're a member of Jazz Piano School, just search upper structure triads, and you'll find lots of videos on all of them, all the possibilities you could ever need. But the way we can implement them, I'm going to give you 3 different ways, okay? Comping is going to be one and foremost. The number one thing that most people use it for is voicings, right? So if I were to play to C7 like I just did, let's go back to our original example, and if I take a flat 6, for example, I'm going to put this in second inversion. So now what do I have over this C7 chord? Okay, don't pay attention to the notation, okay, because it's not spelling it out right because I don't have the bass note in there. Okay, but this is C7, just shells here, 3rd and 7. So I have my my sharp 9, I have my flat 13, and I have my 1, my root here. Okay? Right? So when I comp, if I practice this voicing in all keys, so if I take my flat 6, right? And I want to practice this in all keys. So for example, my flat 6 here, and then I go to the key of F. My flat 6 here, right? And I go to the key of B flat, right? I'm just playing all dominant chords here. Okay? And I just keep moving through the keys and I practice this. At that point, you'll have control over this flat 6 major triad. Okay, and this is just one of the triads I'm talking about. So when you go to play a tune, you can add that upper structure triad into your playing. Now, playing solo piano versus group is very different. If you're playing in a group, you can easily comp with your upper structure triads very easily and start to develop a really pro sound fast, right? So I might be going... There was a lot of extensions in what I just comped, and all I was playing was a 2-5-1-6. I was playing G minor 7 to C7 to F major 7 to D7, back to G minor 7, C7, F major 7, 2-5-1-6. But the way I was comping was through the use of upper structure triads. So every chord I played was an upper structure triad. So I'm going to play it again. I'm going to play 2 minor 7 over my G minor. It gives us this sound. It gives us the 9, the 11, and the 13 over my G minor 7. In my left hand, I just have shells. I'm always just using shells for this demonstration. So here's my upper structure triad. And again, when you have the bass in there, it's going to sound much fuller. So you can hit your bass and then jump to your chord if you're playing solo piano. If you're in a group, you don't need to do that because the bass player will be playing with you. So you can just play your rootless voicing here with your upper structure triad, just like this. When the progression moves to C7, I switch my upper structure triad to a new upper structure triad. So over my C7, I use 2 upper structure triads. And yes, you can do that. You can switch back and forth between upper structure triads. So I use my flat 6 and my flat 5. And you can switch inversions as well. You can go, here's my upper structure triad, second inversion, right, of my flat 6. Here's my upper structure triad, my G flat major triad, but second inversion. You see that? So, right? I'm just kind of switching back and forth. I'm just moving up and down in triads. Again, I'm taking 2 triads, G flat major and A flat major. These are my 2 upper structure triads over this dominant chord, my C7 chord. Flat 6 and flat 5, and I'm just rotating between the inversions. Root, root, second, second, first, first, root, root. Here's what it sounds like with my shells now. I'll do it up here. I can't overlap my hands here, but here's what it sounds like. I'll start from second inversion here. Excuse me, first inversion. Okay, Okay, you can do that for any upper structure triad. You could rotate between 2 and flat 3. That's a really great sound. That's really cool, right? Okay, I'm playing my left hand every time so you can hear the full sound with the root and the shells, right? But anyway, back to our comping example. So I was rotating between 2 upper structure triads. So remember, my first one was my 2 minor over my G minor 7. And then I went flat 6, flat 5, and then back to the 6. Or I could do this. Now, these are top, like, your voicings don't get better than this. I mean, they can in certain ways, but like, when you hear pros play and they're comping, like, this is exactly what a lot of what they're playing is. This right here. But the reason people get stuck is because they watch YouTube videos and they want to learn this and get to their destination as quickly as possible without really understanding everything. And then they get stuck right here because they've learned upper structure triads and they don't know anything before or anything after. I just want you to ask yourself, is that you? Is that the place that you're in, right? Because it's not going to lead to the destination, the goal that you're probably looking to achieve. I'll tell you that right now. All right, so here I am, back in my example. Now I'm going to go to my F major 7, and again, on my F major 7, I think I played the 2 major triad. I could have played a lot of different things, right? I could have played my 3 major triad. I could have had a sharp 5 in there, flat 13. I could have rotated them, right? Lots of different options. And over my 6, okay, I played my flat 6 triad, major triad. Okay, here's my flat 6, right? Over my dominant, again, this is going to give me flat 13, root, and sharp 11. Excuse me, sharp 9. All right, so it sounds like this. The full progression sounds like this. So that is a way to comp using upper structure triads. Now, the other 2 ways that I want to talk about is solo piano, and this is very, very difficult. But when playing solo piano, like tunes, now slash chords I want to kind of iterate are slightly different than upper structure triads. Like, yes, you can classify them as upper structure triads, but for example, in pop and rock, like, you'll see a lot of slash chords. So a slash chord, for example, maybe like a C minor, a progression might be like this. It might go down to B flat, right? So you still have a C minor, but now the bass note has changed. And then maybe it goes to D major over A. Right? So those aren't necessarily upper structure triads in the contents that jazz is talking about them. These are more in pop tunes, right? So I play C minor. Something like that. So you have the slash chord. See how on the notation it's giving slash chords? These are more slash chords, and you'll find these in jazz tunes as well, but they're not technically upper structure triads in the traditional sense that they're taught. So the other 2 ways that you can use these is obviously through solo piano. So if you find a melody note, and this is difficult to use, I don't really recommend this that much, but if you find a melody note on top that is an upper structure triad, for example, let's say my melody note was C over a C7 chord. So, what is this tune? I can't remember the name of this tune right now, but the melody stays on C here. So if my melody is a C, and it happens to be the highest note of my upper structure triad, I can voice my solo piano arrangement of my tune using an upper structure triad, right? Because the melody note happens to be part of the upper structure triad. So in this case, the upper structure triad I'm using is a flat 6 major and just an A flat triad, right? It's in second inversion though. Again, this is another reason that upper triads in general are so important to learn. A lot of my students, Brendan, why do I have to learn all my major and minor triads? Well, they're going to come into use a lot throughout your jazz journey. I promise you that, right? So if I'm harmonizing my melody from my solo piano tune, I can harmonize it in a really easy fashion just using my upper structure triad. So again, depending upon what the melody is, let's say the melody goes up to F here over my dominant chord, I could also use the same upper structure triad there. So it just depends on the melody and what you can fit in. Now, in the moment, to recognize that, it's really, really hard. And a lot of the other systems for voicing that I teach are much easier than this particular system. But I just wanted to explain to you how you can go about doing this, right? So for example, in If I Were a Bell, right? So this note here is going to stay on top. So again, over my dominant chord, I can use my sus upper structure triad, which is just a minor triad. Right? So here's our first chord. And then I go to my sus. And then I go to my 6 major. So I'm using 2 triads here, my 2 minor and my 6 major. This is an A major triad, right? A major triad, if I put a bass note here, this is first inversion. Sus upper structure triad, which is a D minor triad, 2 minor to 6 major. So I'm voicing my solo piano tune with upper structure triads. Now, do I think about this when I'm playing? No, I do not. Okay, and eventually you'll get to that point as well, where and if you work through the Success Path curriculum in Jazz Piano School, once we learn our upper structure triads, we start to pick out the extensions. I'm going to talk about that in just a second when I go to step 3. All right, but just wrapping up this, step number 2 is we can use it for solo piano. See how I arranged and harmonized the melody by using 2 upper structure triads. Here's the melody alone by itself. So now to add harmonization, I'm going to use some upper structure triads. So I use 2 minor, my D minor triad here, right? To A major in first inversion. That was an easy, simple way to harmonize because the melody note happens to be part of those upper structure triads. That's how I can easily start to harmonize solo piano tunes. Like I said, the process to recognize that is not easy. And I recommend to my students that they take a different path for voicing and arranging, which I'm not going to get into now, but for all the members out there, it's going to be the 2-hand voicing building system and my solo piano arranging system as well. Okay, you can find those in the mini courses and in the Success Path curriculum. Okay, so the third step to implementing and using upper structure triads is for improv, right? So let's take If I Were a Bell. I love this piece so much. I can begin to approach improv. Let's just take a 2-5-1, actually. I don't want to get into that. Let's just take a 2-5-1, right? So we'll stay in the key that I was working with. If C7 is our dominant chord, right, would be in the key of F. So to improvise, I can start to create some out sounds using my upper structure triads, right? So let's say you're playing with chord tones and modes a little bit, and your soloing sounds like this, kind of bland, right? Now, I recommend that anyone out there and all my students can do exactly what I just did first. If you can't do that, then moving to the out sounds or any more complicated improv steps is essentially going to be going backwards for you because you're not going to have a foundation. But what I was doing there was just chord tones and modes. And again, that should be your first step to improvisation always. Chord tones first, and then adding modes as glue or connection, right? You should be able to do exactly what I just did over a 2-5-1. That was all chord tones. I can create a great solo just using all chord tones. Then I go to my next level, my next layer, which is going to be modes, which is the glue to my chord tones. And then I start to add in my bebop approaches, what I just did at the very last step. Anyway, back to upper structure triads. Now I can quickly get to a new level of playing and a new sound simply by adding upper structure triads in. So if I take an upper structure triad over my dominant 7 chord, we'll just use 1 for now. Let's use our 6 major, because I didn't really talk about that much. I love that one too. 6 major gives us 13, flat 9, and 3. It gives us 2 extensions, 13 and flat 9, right? And it's just doubling the third here. I love this sound though. When I get to that chord, I'm going to use those notes to improvise with. Okay, check it out. I'm going to play it again. Already, I'm starting to add more colors, more tension, and some resolution into my improvisation in a really, really quick and easy way, right? Now, what I can do here with these notes, I can just bounce around from them. I don't need to connect them in any way, although you can, but you don't have to. You can just bounce around on them. Because you're going to resolve, you want to resolve. The key to using this is the resolution to the next chord. Now, the resolution to the next chord is my F major 7, right? So I can go. I resolve to the 5 of my F major 7. Now let's go a step further. Let's go to the D7 chord, the 6. Let's use a flat 6 upper structure triad now to solo or improvise over this chord. So if my D7 root position is this, my flat 6 will be a B flat major triad. So now I'm going to use these 3 notes to improvise with: B flat, D, and F. Okay? So I'll go from the beginning. So what did I do there? I just arpeggiated the upper structure triad. I just literally went up the whole triad and just kept going. So I played this into this. And then I can go back into my regular thing that I'm used to doing. Now what did I play there? Here again, 3 notes, just using this 6 major triad, just an A major triad. Again, A, E, C sharp, A, E. I'm just arpeggiating and then resolving. Again, the musicality will come in after. Like I can do certain types of rolls. I can do octaves. You know, I can do that. I can do that, you know. And again, this is over my D7. Again, my B flat major triad. Now this takes obviously dexterity, technique, but these are easy ways you can do this. You can just go, right? You want to add spice, flavor, right? You can do some slides. Resolve to that F major 7 or the E. So improv is going to be the third type of way to kind of implement upper structure triads, right? So again, just to cover again the implementation. Number 1 is comping. Number 2 is solo piano arrangement. Okay, so anytime you're kind of like arranging solo piano, that's going to be one way to do it, and the third obviously is going to be improvisation. Okay, now finally, step 3 before I wrap up is going to be what to do next. What to do next after you've learned your upper structure triads and you can play them well. You know a lot of them for your minor sevenths, your dominant sevenths, and your major seven chords. What do you do next? The next step is to take them apart. Take them apart because you want to be able to play all the extensions that are given to you in that pre-mixed paint by themselves. For example, if I play a dominant seventh chord, any dominant seventh chord I run into in a tune when I'm playing, it doesn't matter. I want to be able to play any extension I want on cue. I'll say that again. I want to be able to play any extension I want on cue over any single chord. 9, flat 9, sharp 9, sharp 11, flat 13, 13. And I want to be able to recognize it through all keys, right? B dominant 7, flat 9, natural 9, sharp 9, right? Sharp 11. Okay, you want to be able to recognize this the whole time. And then it just keeps going, right? Flat 13, regular 13. E flat minor 7, 9, 11, 13. This kind of recognition of playing will give you complete control and freedom to paint however you want, to play however you want, to express yourself however you want over any tune at any time, right? So when I play a tune, if I play a simple tune like All the Things You Are, I can add any color I want at any time. And this is the level you want to strive to get to. Enchanté, Jason. This is the level you want to get to, after upper structure triads. So if I were to play All the Things You Are, I can add the 11 whenever I want, or the 13. My first voicing could be this. And then I move to my next voicing. Maybe I do this. And then I go to my dominant 7 chord. Maybe I go simple. Maybe I go lots of extensions. All right, maybe I do this. I love this color. A lot of people wouldn't actually play this, right? But sharp 11, flat 13 are great extensions to put together. Now again, what is this that I'm playing right here? This is my E major triad, right? This is an upper structure in itself, but I added an extension to make it more colorful, the sharp 11. So again, All the Things You Are, right? Colors, shapes, movements. Right? This is what leads to true ultimate expression. This is what leads to complete freedom over playing anything you want, however you want, in solos, in improvisation, in voicings, in compings. Once you start with your upper structure triads, you need to literally break them apart. And you need to isolate every single extension by itself and learn them alone. So you can learn how they interact with chords. You can learn how they function in chords. You can develop a relationship with them, to the harmonies by themselves, not with other colors, not in a pre-mixed formula, not in a cookie cutter upper structure triad, right? Because you'll find beauty in that. You'll find inspiration in just using one color. One color by itself is gorgeous, right? And once you can start to develop a relationship with different colors by themselves, you can combine them however you want, and you'll start to feel and find that you're developing your own expression, your own sound based on what you want. And that, my friends, is absolutely priceless, right? Because then your own voice is coming through on the piano. What you want to say is coming through on the piano. And you're not copying anyone else. You're not just using upper structure triads like you found on the internet, right? Your own soul is able to come out through the music, and you're able to express anything that you want at any time. If you're happy, you can express that. You can pick the colors that you choose. If you're sad, if you're hesitant, if you have anxiety, stress, right? All these things can come out, and it's a succession of learning steps that hardly ever gets taught, nor do you find in the internet, because it's a swamp of information. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of the free information, education that we have, all the other educational podcasts we have, Lick of the Week, blogs. Obviously, if you want to take more of a next step with all the education that I have to offer, become a member. We do have a membership option available, and I'm going to be doing in-person coaching, education, and teaching to a limited group of people come the fall with my team of educators that will get the highest of highest levels of education from us in an intimate group setting. But that being said, I hope you guys had a fantastic day, and as always, happy practicing. All right, so questions. I'll take questions. How's everyone doing? I hope that was helpful for everyone. Again, let me know if you guys have any questions about anything that I just said, and I'll stay here and answer questions for you guys. And when everyone's done, then, or like when you guys don't have any more questions, then that'll be it. But so write your questions. I forgot to actually tell people to write their questions in the chat, right? But if you guys have any questions while I was teaching, go ahead and write them in the chat, and then I will be able to answer them for you. And again, like, it doesn't have to be mind-blowing. It can be absolutely anything. Philip says je n'arrive pas à acheter, j'ouvre la vidéo en même temps. My French is a little rusty, but I think you can't chat and follow the video at the same time. Okay, that's all good. It's no problem. John, awesome. Glad you could make it. So yeah, again, any questions that you guys have, go ahead and put them in here. Margaret, the Jazz Cat, says, Wynton Kelly's blues style is different from Oscar Peterson's. What exactly makes their blues sound different? That's a great question. I mean, I don't want to go too far into that today, but that's a great question for the future. Oscar Peterson uses certain types of sounds, mainly the major sixth in his sound. So the six in a blues scale is something Oscar is really, really known for. Wynton Kelly has more bebop in his blues. Like, Wynton Kelly's more of a bop, more of a bop player than Oscar. Oscar's more of kind of like a blues player, but like not so much bebop. Like, Oscar's style is really, he's invented his own style. But he's using a lot of the major six in his playing, like this. And so he's using variations of that. again, lots of trills, lots of rhythmic things. Again, that's a whole other podcast. But thanks for your question. Hopefully that kind of unlocked a little bit of the doors here. Homework about this, just show upper structures on a C major. Yes, I would say for homework to practice, right? To start practicing, take one upper structure triad and learn it in all keys so that you have a full grasp over it. For example, the 2 major triad is a very popular upper structure triad, right? You want to learn all inversions as well, because just playing a root position like upper structure triad up here, it's not going to serve you that much good. So your inversions are going to be really important, because as you move around through a tune, like I may need to go to my second inversion, or I may need to go to my first inversion. So you want full practice and confidence over these upper structure triads. So I would take my 2 major and I'd practice just root inversion first through all my keys. Circle of fourths. Okay, what key am I in? A flat. So I'm just playing my 2 major, right, through all my keys. And I'm playing root position dominant over here in my left hand. Then I would take my first inversion. Right, now I'm playing my first inversion over here, right? Okay, you see this? This is where it's going to start to get a little harder. And you start to move through the keys that way. Then you take your second inversion, right? So here's my root, first, second. Okay, look at the distance between my second inversion and my chord, for example. And if I just take out my root and my fifth, like in a group, when I play in a group, I'm going to be playing shells mostly here, or in some sort of thing here. Like, again, I don't use my upper structures anymore, but like I do still play variations of upper structures. But if you're playing in a group, or even if you're playing solo piano, you won't be playing root position chords. You're going to play a bass note and then maybe jump to this, or play a bass note and jump to this, right? So the root position is just a practice. So here's my second inversion, and then I'll practice my second inversion. And the thing that's going to help you is to realize the triad. Like, this is a D triad, so I want my second inversion to be D in second inversion. Right? Now I'm playing my G triad in second inversion. Like, say the triad out to yourself as you're playing. Now I'm playing my C triad in second inversion. Now I'm playing my F triad in second inversion. Right? This will really help you practice. And then once you have all the inversions down, I know this sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. And it takes a lot to get to the level that we want to achieve and strive to be at, right? All the pros and anyone, the amount of work that we've put into this is mind-boggling. It's hard for a student to understand that, but again, this is the type of discipline and structured practice that people need to get to the level that they're looking to achieve, right? Once you have that down, then you can start to implement it into tunes however you want. You'll have freedom over your upper structure triad. Again, Philip says all is clear but need to practice for sure. Again, can these upper structures be simplified, please? Susanna, I'm not sure the question, like, can they be simplified further? Like, this is a simplified way of adding extensions. So like upper structure triads are meant to simplify ways to play extensions. So all you have to think about is the triad over top of shells, right? So again, to get a certain type of sound, all I would need to think is D major over my C7 shells. That's going to give me this sound. Or if I wanted to get my flat 13 and sharp 9, all I need to think is an A flat major triad over my C7. I can get this really easily. So that's a simplified way of thinking about it. Okay? So that is the simplification of adding extensions. Now, if your triads aren't up to speed, then we got to back it up even further. Because if you don't know your triads this well to start to add them into your left-hand root position chords, or if you don't know your chords that well, you got to assess. You got to reassess what needs work. Well, my triads need work. Okay, I'm going to practice my triads in all keys. I'm going to practice my major and minor triads. Right? Maybe my root position chords need work. Maybe my shells need work. So again, there's a lot of different pieces that are going to allow you to put this together, and you kind of need to be honest and truthful with yourself. What needs work, what doesn't. If I can't play a G7 chord, or a G flat 7 dominant chord, and I don't know what the shells are, I need to be able to do that, right? Do you use major 7 on a dominant 7? Philip says you can. The dominant 7 chord here is going to be in the left hand. You can't really put these two sounds together. I mean, I'm not a person to say you can't. If you like this, go for it. Like, let's say you like this sound and you want to use it compositionally or in your voicings, go for it. But like this half step traditionally is not something you want to do, Philip. I think that hopefully that was your question. Okay, so Jerome says, so is it more advantageous to learn all the upper structure triads first and work on picking them apart, or learn one triad at a time and just work on that? That's a great question, Jerome. So essentially, Jerome says, is it more advantageous to learn all the upper structure triads first, then work on picking them apart, or learn one triad at a time and then just work on picking that one triad apart? Jerome, I like to approach things in a totality type of manner. So, and you'll find this in the Success Path curriculum, is like, I like doing everything at once personally, and I think it's good for a student to have a clear picture. It's not to say that you need to master everything, but as long as you understand and like you have a conceptual idea of what is happening, then you can move forward, right? And again, I have a tempo scale that I use: 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. 60 is just starting. 90 is getting the hang of it. 120 is solid. So at the 120 mark, I allow my students to move on. Anyone in the Success Path curriculum can move on. And I recommend this for everybody watching right now. Like when you hit a 120 tempo, that's pretty solid for any practice routine. Anything you're practicing is 150 is swinging. Like that's swinging. That's a good tempo. And 180, anything above 180 up is like mastery. Like you got it. It's good to go. I still revisit things, but I would have a conceptual idea of all of the upper structure triads and how you can play them first and then start to take them apart, right? And again, let me simplify things for you guys, okay? I've been using the dominant chord as an example, but for a minor chord, let's say a C minor 7, there's only 3 colors traditionally taught, and they are the 9, 11, and the 13. Now, what does that mean? It means that there's only one triad for a minor 7 chord, and it's this, a 2 minor 7, right? That's it. That's easy. Like you can get all your minor 7 chords down with just one triad, right? And if we take a look at the major 7 triad, traditionally, there's only 2 real extensions kind of that are taught. Major 9 and major 13 and sharp 11. I'm sorry, 3, my bad. 3 traditional extensions. 9, sharp 11, and 13. So again, you can get all of your extensions down with one triad over a major 7 chord. Now, is there more colors? Yes, I like to add sharp 5 to my major 7, right? Sometimes I'll even add sharp 9 to my major 7, like this. With a little bit of a resolution, right? So again, there is more colors to experiment with, but like, I'm gonna sneeze. Traditionally, with the minor 7 and the major 7, there's only 2 triads that you need. And then dominant 7, that's where it gets busy because there's so many extensions, right? Flat 9, natural 9, sharp 9, sharp 11, flat 13, natural 13, right? So it's not that long to learn all these. And so I recommend you do all of it first, and then you start to break them apart and learn the individual extensions over each type of chord. All right. Paul says, hey, Paul, Do you learn each right hand inversion with each left hand inversion? Yes. So you want to practice, and again, mainly you're going to be using shells most of the time to play these types of voicings, or when you're soloing, right? So, like if I'm soloing, I'm mainly using like some sort of voicing over here, like to solo with, and it'll stem from shells. You know, anything like that, right? And so we want to practice all iterations of the shells. I mean, there's only 2, right? Again, the root position is just there for you to hear the sound in its fullest, because we're getting the 1, the root, and the 5. So when I practice, I don't do this for practice sake of working my root position chords with my upper structures. I do this so I can hear the full sound and train my ear. Like, we are essentially ear training while doing this. I'm training my ear to hear what this sounds like with a full harmony to its full extent. Right? But what we really need to work on is just shells here. Like this. Because this is how we're going to be comping. Right? Or this is how we're going to be soloing. And again, so my C7 here, I'd work on my shells with the 7 on the bottom and 3 on the top. 7 on the bottom, 3 on the top. And if you don't know your shells like this, this is another exercise in itself that should be worked on. Right? You should be able to play your shells through the keys just like this in both variations. Here's 3 on the bottom and 7 on the top. Now here's 7 on the bottom and 3 on the top. C7, F7, B flat 7, E flat 7, A flat 7, right? D7, okay? G flat 7, B7, E7, A7, D7, G7. Right? This type of command over your shells is really important. Then we start to add the inversions in. Here's 3rd, 3, and 7 in my root position 2 major triad. Then I'm going to flip it 7 and 3, and I'm going to use my first inversion. Right? Let me go down here a little bit so we can hear more of a balance. Here's what that sounds like. Sometimes it's helpful to throw the root in there so you can hear the balance. Like if I just do this, can't really hear it that well. The bass adds a lot of thickness and balance to your voicing, right? Here's F7, B flat 7, E flat 7, right? And then I would just work on those throughout all the keys. My allergies are going crazy here in California because everything's blooming in the springtime. Bruce says, can you do this type of podcast on drop 2s, diminished 6 idea voicings? Not sure how to make myself clear. 2 different questions. Yeah, no problem, Bruce. I think I did a drop 2 podcast recently. I'll have to check that out, but look through the last 10 podcasts because I'm pretty sure I did a drop 2 podcast. But I'll try and find that for you. Just reading through the chat here. It'd be interesting for you to include a subtitle in Portuguese. Yeah. I don't really know how to do that, Pedro, but subtitles would be great. Margaret the Jazz Cat say, when you play the New Orleans style, what do you play in your left hand and how? No problem, Pedro. It's my pleasure, man. It's always my pleasure to be here for you guys. And I always enjoy it. I always enjoy helping everyone. So I'll take this last question and then I'm gonna head out, guys. But I want styles. So essentially with styles, right? It's really funny because a lot of times we think the pianist or the comping harmonizing instrument is not mainly responsible for styles. And so what do I mean by that? If I play, let's say I do this. Or let me take this, actually. So essentially what I'm playing here is a C7. Let me play an altered chord, actually. So what I'm playing here is a C7 altered. Now in jazz, right? Let's say a bass was walking. Let's say I comp through that and I play G minor. And then I went to my F major 7. So if I were to switch, wow. Sorry guys, I didn't even have the camera on. Okay, let's say I play my altered chord here. So shells, sharp 9, flat 13, and 1. See, this is an upper structure triad. I wasn't even thinking about it in that way. I was thinking, my mentality, my mind was envisioning this as 3 different types of colors: sharp 9, flat 13, and 1. Even though this is a flat 6 triad, like mentally, that's not how I envision things anymore. Did I used to? Yes. But I do not anymore because I've isolated each color. So to me, I see this as individual colors being blended together to create my voicing. I don't see it as an upper structure second inversion anymore. I see this as sharp 9, the color of sharp 9, the sound it produces, the feeling, right? I see this as flat 13, the feeling, the sound that this creates, and then 1 on top. And 1, don't ever underestimate the color of chord tones, because if I switch this 1 to a 9 on top, do you hear the difference there? Like it's like catastrophic. Like this compared to this is like complete difference. Like the 1 on top gives it balance, right? So don't underestimate chord tones ever. I used to take them for granted. Like all I wanted to play was extensions and like, I don't need chord tones, right? We want to play no chord tones. But chord tones are really, really important for balance, substance, and, you know, just harmony. Anyway, okay. So let's take that, right? If I switch the sound on my piano, check it out. Let's say I'm playing jazz and I'm comping. Right? It's going to sound that way. That sounds like jazz. Whatever it is, right? Check it out. If I just switch the sound on my piano to this. That gives it a complete different feeling. Now, what's associated with the sound of Rhodes or electric piano, right? Funk, blues, different things like that. Margaret the Jazz Cat, I'm getting to your question. Okay, I just kind of building up to it. Now, if I switch the style or the groove, right? The groove of this, and I straighten out my comping and straighten out everything I'm playing. So instead of 1 and 2 and 3. I'm playing da da da, right? Da da, and I'm picturing my bass and drums instead of going ting ting to ting ting to ting, and my bass walking, they're going dum dum da dum 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 da, or whatever groove it is they're playing, maybe a funk groove, right? So, and I picture my bass going like, let's see here's my bass sound. Right? A straight feel, right? Now, I'm not really controlling the groove. That's the drummer and the bass player, right? But what I can control is my sounds, but I don't have to change my voicings, which is really interesting. I think a lot of people get this confused. So if the bass player is playing that and I straighten up my comping, it would sound like this now. Now, if I had a drummer and bass player playing with me, that would sound more funky. It would sound different. It'd sound like a completely different style. Now, did my voicings change? No. Check it out. My voicings stayed the same, But the drummer and the bass player changed the groove. I changed the sound on my piano, and I straightened up the feel, the rhythmic feel of my comping, and it starts to turn into different styles. Okay? Learning jazz theory and jazz harmony allows you to play all styles. And it's funny when I see, this is why I don't have many stylistic things inside of jazz piano school, because jazz allows you to play any style you want. Like when you watch funk tutorials or blues tutorials, like it's not necessarily the keyboard player that's responsible for that. It's the drummer and the bass player because they're laying down the groove. Now, Margaret, in New Orleans style, the drummer, they need to play a New Orleans style groove, right? The pianist can do that in a lot of different ways, right? Stride, maybe. Now, it's kind of a different type of New Orleans style, or even New Orleans if you want to call it. But again, true New Orleans, like second line New Orleans, right? Style, the groove is brought to life through the drummer, right? Right? That's going to be on the snare. Okay, so when a drummer starts to playing that, my voicings don't really change here. Like let's say I had a 2-5-1. I'm going to kind of comp in the same way that I do. You know, whatever it is. So like my voicings are the same, but like the way I approach certain things are going to change, you know, as far as rhythms go, but note-wise, like a lot of the jazz stuff you'll learn is still going to be applied to all the different styles. Funk, blues, New Orleans style, Latin, bossa. It's not really our job to control the styles. We do have some changes here and there, but they're minuscule, and mainly the drummer and the bass player are going to be changing those styles. Now, with that comes a lot of different kind of like, yeah, but what if, or like, Brennan, yeah, that's true, but like you need to be able to, yeah, like, yes, I understand that too. Like, obviously to capture the true essence of certain styles, like you want to get as specific as possible, but at a simple way to explain it, like we're not really primarily responsible for kind of that stuff. So when you ask, what do you play or what do you play for the New Orleans style? Like, what do you play in your left hand? It's really not much different. I still play shells. I still play like octaves in my right hand. And that's about it. I mean, I might do that, right? So again, if you have certain examples, certain types of pianists are doing certain things that a lot of students listen to, and then they attach those sounds to kind of the style, but it's really the influence of the pianist, meaning like Oscar, you may think like Oscar is a blues pianist. Well, he's not really a blues pianist. He's a jazz pianist that has a blues influence, right? So then you start to think, well, the blues is like what Oscar or Wynton Kelly plays, but not really. So there's a lot that goes into that kind of question as far as stylistic things, you know, and the more you can kind of learn, as long as you study jazz theory and like jazz, everything that goes along with it, everything, you'll learn all the styles that you need to know within that. And then you just need to learn these kind of simple variations that go along with it. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. Again, guys, if you're not members, go to jazzpianoschool.com. Check out the membership. You can move a step forward and get access to all of the materials. Even if you don't want to become a member, I still like to do this. I love teaching. I love educating. Sterling's going to be on here. One of my educators, Sterling Koza, is going to be on this week or next week, and he's going to be doing a live stream for you guys, right? So it's going to be really exciting. He works with me. He's on my team of educators. He's going to be going to Manhattan School of Music for his graduate degree, which is really, really awesome. So hope you guys have a fantastic day. If you have any questions about anything, obviously email me and check out all the free information on jazzpianoschool.com. And with that being said, See you later. Happy practicing.